Welcome to Machining Minds, Ace Driven, the podcast where innovation meets opportunity in American manufacturing. This show dives into the people, programs, and powerful ideas reshaping the future of U.S. machining and advanced manufacturing. Whether you're a student, an educator, an industry pro, or just curious about the next wave of high-tech talent, you're in the right place. Each episode, we'll bring you real stories from the shop floor to the classroom, highlighting cutting-edge training, career pathways, and the inspiring individuals driving change across the country. This is Machining Minds, Ace Driven. Let's cut into it.
This is going to be a podcast where innovation meets opportunity in American manufacturing. Some people don't know what ACE stands for. It stands for America's Cutting Edge, and it's a machining program that we've been doing here in Wichita for about the past year and a half. And I have two of the nation's best experts on the line. So I've got Dave Robertson. He's the workforce trainer for IACME. And I also have Jose Nazario. He is the head trainer in machining at the University of Tennessee. You guys hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Cool. So how's things been going in Tennessee?
Been going good. That's we just got finished up with our June Train the Trainer. So got some new qualified instructors that have hit the field out there ready to train some new folks and introduce them into CNC machining.
Sweet. How many did you have at your last training?
We had 5 new trainers, as well as we had some opportunities for people from IACME, the Composites Institute, to come in that are not on the machining side, but work with the program to learn a little bit more about what we're doing as well. And then we also had a couple summer interns that we have over here located at Tennessee MMAD, as well as a little bit of faculty members as well from the University of Tennessee coming in to learn in this program as well. So we had a total of 11 people this time.
Well, sweet. That sounds awesome. You know, I've got a training coming up that is just for our workers that's actually recruiting students to come to WSU Tech. And, you know, they bring students in so they can show them what the machining lab's all about. And they really don't even know. They just have a script that they read to the students as they're coming through there. So we're going to put these recruiters through ACE training just so whenever they're telling people, hey, this is what this machine does, or this what you can make, then they're actually speaking from experience. So I think that's good what you guys are doing, and I think it's going to be awesome what we're fixing to do with the recruiters.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's invaluable for those people to be able to know those talking points and kind of what they're talking to. That can be the difference in getting a successful recruitment or, you know, losing that individual, because that's some individuals that they have parents, grandparents, or somebody in the family that's been a machinist and know a little bit of the lingo. It doesn't take long before you talk to somebody and figure out they don't know what they're talking about. That was one of the big points. As Jose mentioned, I had a couple of my colleagues come through and actually take the camp, and I've put a lot of pressure on the rest of my colleagues to do that as well, because that knowledge is power in this industry.
Absolutely. And talking that lingo, you know, we've got one of our recruiters that, I mean, he's upbeat and he probably brings as many students into WSU Tech as anybody. But I heard him one day talking about a 5-axle machine, and I pulled him off to the side and I said, it's not 5 axles. And he said, well, I wondered where all these axles were. And I said, no, it's 5-axis machine. So you're right. I mean, it's easy to find out when somebody doesn't know what they're talking about right away, especially if it's a subject that you know a little bit about, you know.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna ask you guys some questions just so we can get this episode started and everybody can learn a little bit more about ACE, and because that's why we're here. This goes to either one of you. Probably the first question would probably be out to Jose, actually. America's Cutting Edge offers free training programs. So what motivated you to make the programs accessible to all students, and how does this align with your mission to bridge the skills gap in industry? And why was it free? Why do you think it was free, Jose?
Yeah. So, I mean, taking the program back almost about 5 years now that we've been doing these free camps sponsored by the Department of Defense on this, is because the initiative isn't to try to just create more machinists in 5 days, right? The intention is for an exposure for that. So the age gap, obviously, of the students can range from anywhere, right? From anywhere between the ages of 13 to 60 or higher. We've seen people that are in age of retirement, as well as we've seen students that are in middle school and high school levels on this. And so obviously, in order to make this a more accessible program, having it be free where the students can come in and really just be more motivated to say, hey, I want to try this out, I want to see what it's like, is just a great entryway, right? And then that allows them to really go into the next steps of their thoughts, right? Especially if they're younger and if they're in the decision-making part of their careers, right? Is that the part where you're going to be paying is going to be if you want to go and get an educational degree, right? If you want to go into a community college track, or if you want to go to a technical school, or if you want to be an engineer. The ability for this program to be able to be accessible to all these different ages is important for that reason, but also the content that we teach, Justin, is very important for different types of skill sets in the industry. There'll be people that want to be machinists and CNC programmers. There will be engineers that are interested in the structural dynamics or the milling dynamic stuff that we do as well. And so we've allowed it to be free and open in various amounts of ways, only so that we can make sure that anybody that takes this course gets a little bit of something or a lot of something, depending on where they are right now in their careers or what age gap they're at, you know?
Absolutely. That great answer. You know, I have a lot of people that ask me, they say, hey, you know, this training is 4 or 5 days. How are we going to become a machinist in 4 or 5 days? And, you know, you just hit on it right there. We're not trying to make anybody become a machinist in 4 or 5 days. We're trying to spark that interest to let them see if this is where they want to be in their career, or if this is something they'd want to do for a career. And then they can, like you said, pay to go on and get some education, you know, as far as, you know, at the University of Tennessee or WSU Tech or wherever they want to go as far as getting their machining education furthered. So, yeah, that was a great answer. I'm going to ask Dave, while ACE training isn't a quick fix for becoming a machinist, this is kind of what we just talked about, how does it help spark interest in machining for students who may never have considered this trade before?
Well, you know, I mean, again, it's kind of like Jose was just talking about. This is giving people exposure. I mean, machining is not something that a lot of people know about, and the ones that do know about it have kind of fallen into a realm of this nostalgia around, well, you know, it's dirty and it's not really that lucrative of work. There's been kind of a bad rap around a lot of manufacturing. And so this gives us an opportunity through this program to show people what it's really about and let them be exposed to that environment, see it, feel it, go through the programming and everything, and really see if there's a niche anywhere, you know, in the machining realm or engineering realm for that matter, that could interest them. And, you know, that's really putting all that content out there. Yeah, there's a whole lot there, and not everybody's going to get everything that is involved with it. But what we hope for is just exactly that little spark, that somebody that's going through a boot camp, something sticks out to them and they think, you know what, it would really be cool to do something like that for a living.
Absolutely. You know, and I always think about this, Dave. I haven't been in machining my whole life. You know, I didn't even know what machining was until I was upper in my 20s, you know. And I knew that my cousin was a machinist, and I always heard that he could build a bolt, and that's all I thought machining was that you could build a bolt. And I thought, man, that's a huge career for somebody that can just build a bolt. I actually went to work for my cousin in his machine shop, and it was just me and him working together side by side, and that was the first time I'd ever really knew what machining was. I'd never been around a lathe or a mill or anything like that. But I always knew what welding was. I always knew what plumbing was. I always knew, what auto mechanics were. And it seems like in these technical colleges, all the high schoolers that are coming through the technical colleges, they're going towards welding. They're going towards auto mechanics. They're going over to the construction science. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the reason that they're doing that is because they have no clue what machining is. And I think that with this ACE training, catching those younger, like Jose said, as young as 13 years old, and bringing them into the machining and showing them, giving them that 4 to 5 day training is going to boost the economy when it comes to the machining economy. It's going to boost, the skills gap getting to these younger students opposed to wait until they're in their upper 20s to even find out what machining is. I don't know if
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got a society really, for the most part, that doesn't even understand what machinists do, and they don't realize just how critical to every part of their lives a machinist is. And that's something that I think, the program does as well, is highlight the fact that a majority of the time, from the time that you get up to the time you lay your head back down to go to sleep, and even what you lay your head down to go to sleep on, may have in some way had to have been influenced by a machinist, and more than likely it has, whether it's the equipment that makes it, having parts of machine for that. If it had to be made in a mold, a machinist had to make that mold. I don't think a lot of the time that, our general society even understands just how critically important a machinist is.
Absolutely. Yep. And, when I get students that are coming through on a tour, and wanting to check out the machine shop, and like you said, have no clue what a machinist is or does, I always show them the cover on my cell phone or my cell phone case, and they say, "You machined that out?" And I said, "No, I didn't machine it out, but somebody had to machine the mold that actually made that." Something that they relate to, that everybody relates to, is a cell phone. So if they think they can build something that'll go on a cell phone, maybe that'll spark their interest.
Right.
Jose, how do you engage students during the training to help them see the potential in machining as a long-term career, and what sparks that aha moment for many students?
Yeah, and Justin, when it comes to that, I think one of the best things about the training and kind of just engaging that aspect of a student is obviously a mixture of hands-on training. So we have a lot from when day one, about 30 minutes to an hour into the program, we're placing students directly on CNC machines. The entire goal for us is to kind of demystify it, right? To make sure that everybody understands that although, of course, there's some inherent risk to using a machine, but when done correctly, it's actually a really nice, challenging kind of approach to being able to do something, right? It involves us training them how to set up tools, how to use probing systems to be able to get their work offsets, and then we show them how to actually set up their work pieces, how to actually run through the programming that we're doing for every part that we make. All that together really does allow us to say, hey, the student is actually learning these fundamental skill sets that branch out through what an entire CNC operation looks like. It could be the operator going ahead and hitting the buttons to start the machine and operate the machines on this. The other side would be the computer programmer and the machinist who are actually laying out the tool paths. That's a big thing, as well as on the design engineer or the manufacturing engineering side, it also helps us understand the physics-based approach to how we're learning, how these machines operate, and also how to go ahead and design parts that are actually manufacturable, because all the parts that we have been designed for that purpose. So I think it's a great way that a student that has almost no experience in any of this stuff can come in and be like, oh, if I go into a CNC shop after I've been exposed with this stuff, I can see a lot of that being taught. So that's what we like to do a lot, is to engage all the elements with them on kind of just a fundamental basis.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you that question because I wanted to bring this into play in this podcast, Jose. You know, when I went through training, Dave went through the same training that I went through. So I know you remember that. We we go into that class, and me and Dave, we both knew quite a bit about machining, and we were open-minded about coming into this class and seeing what y'all had to offer. And I remember the feeling of thinking, man, I'm going to be stuck in this classroom over here in Tennessee for how many ever days before I get out there on the machine, you know. And just like you said, within 30 minutes of being in that classroom, you guys had us out there on the machine and had us running the parts. And, you know, just me or Dave or Nathan Panic, he was there. There was a bunch of people that are a big part of ACE now that were in that class. And, you know, we all knew about running machines. We all knew about programming and setting tool offsets and using probes. But you guys broke it down through this program and made it so simple, you know, where we like you said, we were taking a full CNC program and sticking it into 5 days. But you guys were making it so simple to be able to teach this. And, you know, I always think about the operator checklist that comes with ACE. You know, I'd always taught my students, you know, you run 5% rapid, you run single block, and you run distance to go. And, you know, you ran it slow. But the operator checklist is something that it was that aha moment for me. It was like, why haven't I been using this for the last 10 years as an instructor? This is helping me know, hey, I've loaded the right program. I've set my offsets into G54. You know, I've touched all my tools off. Now I'm going to bring my tool down and I'm going to measure it, you know, before it gets to my part. It's kind of the same thing of what I was doing, except there was no verification that my students were doing exactly what I told them. So now when it comes to our machining courses, we actually use that operator checklist in our machining courses just to keep crashes down. So I absolutely fell in love with the training right off the bat because of what you just said. You know, 30 minutes in, we're out there running the machine. That's what our students need is to get out there, run those machines right off the bat. And instead of sitting in a classroom doing boring homework. You know what I'm saying?
Totally understood on that. I mean, and that's the whole point, right? Is a 5-day exposure is supposed to be something more of just an exciting point, right? Not a full 15-long-week class, you know, like some of us teach that way. This is just an exciting way to say, hey, we got 5 days, we got 5 parts we got to make, and then getting you guys out that way. And I definitely see a lot of that excitement coming from that.
Absolutely. For someone who's never worked with a CNC machine before, how does the ACE program build their confidence and interest, even if they're not quite ready to become the machinist right away? How do they build their confidence in that CNC machine through the ACE program?
The instruction that we provide through ACE gives them enough good ground basis that these employers can take them in and put them on a machine and have them running parts. And then if they need to build upon that, you know, that's the good thing for these individuals is some of them are getting into positions to where their employer is actually willing to go ahead and pay for them to continue on their education and get certified in machining, or go to college even and go down an engineering path.
Absolutely. We have students all the time that come into the ACE program, and they're a little timid around the machine, and they're more comfortable over there in the programming side, but they're pretty timid when it comes to the machine. But the one thing that ACE does, in my opinion, to curb that, is not only is your instructor teaching this student, but as soon as that student gets done running their part, they have to turn around and teach the next student what they just learned. In my experience, that's got students more comfortable, less timid around the machine, because they're actually showing the other student, hey, this is how you do it, and this is what I've learned. Now, the instructor's still there the whole time. It's not like we're walking away, but we're letting that student learn and then teach, and in my opinion, that gets them over that timid factor a lot easier. You guys see that too?
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Oh yeah. I'm going to ask a couple more questions. I want to throw one to Jose. What success stories can you share of students who begin their journey with ACE's free program and then decide to pursue full-time career in machining? Do you have anybody that comes to mind?
Yeah, we've had a couple of really good success stories. We've had students come in here and be able to take a class and then be recruited. A couple of those are really happening recently in like Indian River Community College out in Florida. Like Dave was mentioning, we've had recruiters going to these camps and seeing that, and then just trying to get somebody that, has an interest, has a spark. And so we've had students like that. In terms of the high school side of it, too, we've had a lot of students, even locally in the areas in Knoxville, that go to these camps and then use the skill sets that they have to be they use their skill sets that they get in these ACE classes and take them back into their extracurricular activities like robotics. Over at Oak Ridge High, we taught a couple students for the first time, maybe 3 years ago, how to use the CNC machines, and now they're making their own products for their robots every year in-house, and that wasn't a thing, even 10 years ago when I was in robotics. So this training course has opened a lot of doors into an exposure for schools to become more involved with as well. And then especially on the, and then lastly on this, in terms of the engineers on this, a lot of engineers recently are very theoretical based. They're not extremely hands-on based on that. And I think that really one of the things that we see with that is a desire to want to know more about that. So engineering students, people out in industry have come to this class and been like, whoa, I now understand what's going on the shop floor. And, I can understand how to design something a little bit better because this tool just might not fit inside of those corners and those pockets, So I've seen a lot of success measured in a lot of different ways in this regard that have shown just an overall increase in knowledge in the overall industrial base for it, as well as just the potential people who are interested in manufacturing for that reason.
Absolutely. I love it that you brought up the engineering students. Over here at WSU, the engineering students have been coming through. Normally every training I have will have at least 2 or 3 that will come through just to learn more than that theory. They'll learn that hands-on. And, it seems like they get a lot out of it, when you're thinking of you've got a high school teacher, you've got a couple of tech school instructors, and you've got somebody from industry, and you got somebody that just wants to learn a little bit about machining, and then you have 3 engineers in the class. I mean, that's a wide range of people that you're having to teach, and it seems to me that the engineers are just as excited as that student that's in there that's never even seen a machine before, or don't even know anything about it. So, yeah, I love the fact that the engineers are getting in there and getting that practical experience along with everybody else. So, yeah. You guys got anything on your mind or anything we haven't covered that you'd like to talk about?
And so, I guess a good question is, right, I mean, Justin, with you being out of WSU Tech, in the environment over there, how have you seen this training kind of boost up an understanding, especially in a place that does have a lot of manufacturing like Wichita? How has this program helped your ecosystem, do you think?
I went out the other day to the Kansas Army National Guard, talked to them for a while. I'm actually going out again to talk to their main sergeant, and they're going to have a train the trainer here at WSU Tech this fall that'll be strictly National Guard. So, I mean, we got some big things coming down the pike.
Oh, and that's exactly what I think we're trying to see with this, Justin, right? Is we're trying to see how a program like this, where it doesn't make you a machinist, right, in 5 days, but it starts that spark that ignites the rest of this kind of movement. And I think what you guys have done at WSU Tech is great, especially you being so close to a lot of NIAR, where you guys are close to Wichita State, where you guys are all this. You have such a good ecosystem for this to flourish in, and I'm glad you guys are doing that in such a cool way.
Absolutely. We're so blessed to be part of IACME and the ACE program. That's for sure.
That's what you made reference to there with getting training done with the military and things like that. That's something that is extremely important to me, being prior military myself and getting out and kind of struggling to get a job. I wish that when I did leave active service that there was more programs like this that could introduce individuals that are leaving our active duty military and everything. And there's times when it's a tough transition to go back into the civilian world and get on track with something. And I mean, that's being able to deliver that content to those members of our armed services and giving them an exposure to something that they can do when it comes time for the end of their service for the country. That I mean, these guys, the guys I know I fought with when I was in and everything, I believe that every one of them deserves the best opportunities that they can get for what they've done for the country. And this is, to me, this is one of those. This is really what got me on board, was just the capability that we had to reach out to all those individuals, all those people that were leaving military, lower class individuals that just think they have no skills. They've been working, these dead end jobs that they just don't think they can get out of because they don't have an education, they don't have a skill set, something like that. Being able to expose individuals to that and show them, that's you don't have to have a 4-year degree to go in and be able to participate in a lucrative career.
That's absolutely correct. And we sure appreciate your service, Dave. That's for sure. I can't imagine coming out of the military or out of battle and having to be, reintroduced back into society, and not having a career to fall back on. So, I think this ACE training is going to be a great thing for the Kansas Army National Guard, and I don't think we should stop there. I think we should, go as far as we can go, and reach as many people as we can. That's why I wanted to do this podcast, was to get as many people from as many cultures, from as many areas of the United States to get on board with it. So I sure appreciate you guys being on here, and I knew you both would be a wealth of knowledge, and I figured this would be a good way to start it. So I appreciate it, and I will get back with you.
Sounds good. Yeah, appreciate you having us on. And that's everybody listening to this. If you hadn't already, hop on over to americascuttingedge.org and get signed up. Go see Justin out at Wichita State, or we've got a lot of partner facilities across the states, and a lot of good instructors at each one of them. So get signed up and get into a camp and see what this is all about.
Absolutely.
Yep, 100%.
Well, thank you guys, and have a good day. We'll see you.